Besant, Başkan Trump ve Parti Başkanı Xi'nin çok iyi bir ilişkisi var. Amerika Birleşik Devletleri Hazine Bakanı ile Suudi-Amerikan Yatırım Forumu 2025'teki önemli tartışmaları keşfedin.
Such a privilege, as I said, to be with you both this morning. Your Excellency, thank you for hosting us. Thank you for putting on this extraordinary summit with His Excellency Minister Al-Falah. You and I had the privilege of working together 8 years ago on some of the extremely important partnerships and business deliverables, and we're really excited to have Secretary Besant with us, fresh off a flight from Geneva. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Secretary. You have had quite a few weeks and a very important meeting in Geneva, a series of meetings with the Chinese counterparts, and success. It sounds like you have made huge progress in the relationship, and the next 90 days are going to prove to be critical. Can you share a little bit more about the deal, how the talks went, and what you think will happen in the next 90 days?
Good. Well, thank you, Dina, Excellency. First of all, I'm going to say it's wonderful to be here. I have a long history with the kingdom. The governor of South Carolina, where I'm from, John West, was the ambassador to the kingdom under President Jimmy Carter. He was a close family friend, so I grew up hearing stories about the kingdom as a child. And then my first proper job in New York City was working for the Olayan Group. I have a long history with Saudi. And before we go on too, I do want to have a hat tip to our moderator here. Dina Powell is the personification of the perfect internal and external public and private person in the United States.
Thank you.
Her family moved from the Middle East to Texas. She attended the University of Texas. She's had a major role in the first Trump administration, and now, for now, she's on the outside. So,
thank you. I'm honored. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And yes, so we had a very active dialogue in Geneva this weekend. It was very constructive. Both sides came with a clear agenda, but shared interest. We had great mutual respect. And I think what we were able to establish as President Trump and the administration began the tariff program, we had a plan, we had a process, and what we did not have with the Chinese was a mechanism. So the Vice Premier and I now call this the Geneva mechanism to prevent any misunderstandings, because President Trump and Party Chairman Xi have a very good relationship, but the relationship did not make its way down through other levels of government. So I think the important thing is that after this weekend, we have a mechanism to avoid escalation like we had before. We both agreed to bring the tariffs levels down 115%, which I think is very productive, because where we were with 145 and 125 was the equivalent of an unintended embargo. That is not healthy for the two largest economies in the world. It is not healthy for the rest of the world. So I think we can proceed from here. We have a very good framework, and as I said during IMF week in Washington about 3 or 4 weeks ago, there is a possibility, it's not a certainty, but that, as Ray Dalio might say, we could do a big, beautiful rebalancing. President Trump wants to rebalance the American economy back to a manufacturing economy with high precision manufacturing. I think everyone agrees, including Chinese leadership, that they need to rebalance towards more of a consumption and consumer economy. And the dream scenario would be if somehow we could do that together.
And what do you think the next 90 days look like? It sounds like very productive meetings and now people talking to each other, as you say. Were there areas that you kind of put to the side or, really put everything on the table?
I think everything is on the table. We have a very good framework from President Trump's first administration. There was a treaty that was signed, a trade treaty, a trade agreement that was signed in January 2020. So we're not starting from ground zero. We have a framework and we can go from there. Obviously, many things have changed over the past 5 years. And look, what we don't want, and both sides agreed, we do not want a generalized decoupling between the two largest economies in the world. What we want is the U.S. is going to decouple in strategic industries, which we saw during COVID. We had become woefully non-self-sufficient. So whether it's medicines, semiconductors, other strategic areas. So the United States will bring those industries home, but the idea isn't a generalized decoupling, and we do have a very large trade deficit with China. That could be solved in many ways, and my hope it is via Chinese buying more American goods and the U.S. selling a kind of opening up of the Chinese consumer, and then that will lead to more fair and balanced trade.
One last question on trade. President Trump has tasked you and Ambassador Greer and Secretary Lutnick to look at other countries and hopefully have other deals like you did with the UK. Do you feel good about several of those also coming through in the next period of time?
Yes, so I've been focused on the Asia deals, of which obviously China is the largest. We've had very productive discussions with Japan. South Korea is going through a governmental change, but before they went into the election cycle, the South Koreans came with very good proposals. Indonesia, who's a large trading partner, has been very forthcoming. The island of Taiwan has presented very good proposal. Thailand, so things on my side of the world, things are going very well. I think the U.S. and Europe may be a bit slower. My personal belief is Europe may have a collective action problem, that the Italians want something that's different than the French, but I'm sure at the end of the day, we will reach a satisfactory conclusion.
Great, thank you. So Your Excellency, we were talking backstage about 2017, when really not many people in the world had heard about Vision 2030. And in 8 pretty short years, it's really remarkable to see all that the kingdom has done in social, economic, and political reform. You have been a key leader in diversifying the Saudi economy, in bringing investment here to the kingdom. Give us sort of, in your view, the status of Vision 2030 and the unique partnership between our two economies.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here and for really insightful thoughts. Before I answer the question, I just wanted to comment on His Excellency's comments. In Washington, I actually pushed His Excellency a little bit more than what I would usually in the IMFC meetings. And actually, there was a lot of wisdom in the room. There was really, it gave me a lot of hope, and I actually spoke about it publicly, saying that what I've heard in Washington, and particularly from His Excellency, gives me a lot of confidence that the world is not as in a chaos or in a difficult situation as a lot of people are seeing it. I think there is a plan, and hopefully we will see a resolution, and we started seeing this. So thank you Mr. Secretary. And Dina, thank you also for all the support that you provided to the relationship. The Saudi-US relationship is, as His Excellency Farah mentioned, is 92 plus years old, and it gets stronger and stronger every year. And if you just look at the amount of investments from Saudi in the US, it's really significant compared to the size of an economy like Saudi Arabia. It's way, actually multiple folds of any other nation, i.e. any other nation we invest in. And the same the other way. There are a lot of investments from the US in Saudi Arabia, and particularly since the start of Saudi Vision 2030, we have seen actually a significant pickup. Saudi Vision 2030, and I'm sure a lot of the attendees here are aware of what Saudi Vision 2030, but in brief, it's really a long-term vision, a North Star, that actually for the last 7-8 years drove significant part of the society, if not all part of the society, towards one goal, which is transforming this nation economically, socially, and financially to a more sustainable path. We were significantly reliant on one commodity for an extended period of time, which was basically so volatile. So you have the booms and busts in the economic cycles depending on where the oil price is, and that was not sustainable. So when you have a leadership that actually sets a very clear vision, mobilize the nation behind it, people of Saudi Arabia then really owns it, and they see that actually this is their vision, this is their country, this is their transformation. That's what happened. What happened in the last 7-8 years is incredible in a lot of ways, and I'll give just a few examples. I mean, if you look at some of the very difficult structural changes that requires quite an extended period of time, private investment as a percentage of GDP. I mean, this is a structural anchor in any economy, and to shift it, to increase it, takes really ages and decades sometimes. We had more than 50% growth in the private sector investment as a percentage of GDP, from 16, short of 16 to about 23% now. That is significant. Mm-hmm. This is a long-term investment. The capital formation is significant. Unemployment, we have in the last quarter the lowest unemployment in Saudi history ever, 3.5%. And amongst the nationals, amongst the Saudis, we have achieved our target for 2030 last quarter, which is 7%. Women empowerment is significant. So bringing half of your society to the productive part of the economy is significant, and that drove a serious change. You know, moving from 17% of women participation in the workforce to 36% is a serious structural change. I could go on, but if you look at even, just I'll leave you with one note, in the tourism, which basically then connects to mobility and logistics, etc. Tourism, we had a target of 100 million visits as per the Tourism International Organization for 2030. We achieved that 2 years ago, simply because there were a lot of attractions